It's America's First News with Matt Ray.
And good Tuesday morning. America's First News continues on the 17th day of September. The Manhattan D.A.'s office has subpoenaed 8 years of President Trump's personal and corporate tax returns as part of its probe into hush money payments to two women who said they had affairs with Trump. New York prosecutors sending the subpoenas last month to Mazars USA. That's the president's accounting firm. Let's bring in our regular guest. Byron Henry joins us from time to time here to discuss legal issues. He's an attorney with Scheef Stone. Byron, thank you for joining us. As always, we appreciate it.
Sure thing. Glad to be with you.
So they sent these subpoenas last month to Mazars. First, does Mazars have to, these subpoenas, do they have to send the tax returns?
Well, there's a lot of ways to respond to subpoenas. They can file something to quash the subpoenas. They can get a judge to rule on things. So, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to send the tax returns, but it certainly is the first step in a process of getting tax returns. I'm very skeptical of 8 years of multiple personal and multiple these incidents happened, and normally in protected documents like tax returns, even if you got the tax returns, you would only get the year that was in question from the entity that was in question, and most everything else would be redacted except the information about what you're actually looking for. You wouldn't just get to dig into and just look at 8 years of tax returns that have nothing to do with the actual allegation of criminal behavior that's been made in the grand jury that they've impaneled in Manhattan.
It sounds similar to, we know that Congress recently got their hands on documents from Deutsche Bank, but a lot of the information was redacted as well. This is to protect other parties. Is that correct?
Well, it's not just other parties, but you're not just entitled to look at some. You're only, if they're relevant to the inquiry. Let's say that there's a legitimate criminal investigation going on related to these payments. If the incident occurred in 2005, let's say, or 2016, then they would be entitled to look at how the payment was treated in the 2016 tax returns, not 8 years. Most crimes aren't even, you can't even charge crimes 8 years old, especially crimes, minor crimes, which is the ones they're looking at now. The statute of limitations would probably have run on most of them. So I don't understand why, if they know the year in which the payments occurred, which everyone does, then how they would get 8 years. But you're exactly right. If they're redacted, it would just simply mean if the stories or payments were treated for tax purposes, then you would simply look at that payment on the tax return and how did they treat that payment, not every single thing the president or any of his companies made from all sources for 8 years.
And this is, when you talk about the president's political opponents in public, people who didn't vote for him, people who do not like him, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be able to see what's going on with the president's tax returns, even if the Manhattan DA's office is successful.
That's correct. Even if there is a limited amount of tax returns that are relevant, that are eventually produced, that will be heavily redacted or very focused, then even those are secret under state law and federal law, except for the grand jury, unless the crime is actually charged and they're actually introduced at a trial. So even they should remain secret in the grand jury process, assuming the entire process plays out and something is actually ordered to be produced.
I know you stick to law, but we pontificate sometimes, Byron. Do you see this as a game changer when you're talking about President Trump and his tax returns and how they have not been released? And it sounds like, it's going to be very difficult for lawmakers or the DA to get their hands on it. Is this a game changer going forward? What's to stop other candidates from saying, I'm not going to do it?
Well, I don't think it's a game changer per se, but I will tell you the game changer is the idea that for no reason whatsoever we could weaponize courts and other bodies to dig into the political opponent's past. You really just have to look at the fact that if this is allowed, or what Congress attempted is allowed, there is no politician, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Liberal, or Conservative, that someone couldn't impanel a grand jury and look to see their tax returns or other private information.
Yeah. Did we lose Byron? Oh, okay.
You know, we saw the entire, Justice Kavanaugh uncorroborated reports turned into an entire national event over some uncorroborated reports of something that may have happened years and years ago. So it's a very dangerous precedent to set that we can just simply allege a crime or newspapers report a crime, and then we decide to open up a grand jury and just dig into people's personal confidential information, such as tax returns.
So the next step, Mazars, I guess coming full circle now, Byron, Mazars is considering how to respond to those subpoenas, and that's really the next step.
That's right, and they'll respond through their lawyers the same way that Deutsche Bank or anyone else would have done. Same thing that happened when Congress tried to get a hold of the president's tax returns. The judge did not allow Congress to simply issue a subpoena and get all of the tax returns that they sought. There'll be a legal proceeding. A judge will rule in the grand jury process, and either some deal will be reached or something will be produced, or maybe nothing will be produced. But whatever is produced, I assure you, it will not be every single one of President Trump's organizations or entities in which he has an interest in his personal tax returns unredacted for 8 years. That's not going to happen.
Byron, we appreciate your time as always, my friend. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
All right, that's Byron Henry. He's an attorney with Scheef Stone out of Texas, also a constitutional scholar. He joins us from time to time here on America's First News to talk legal issues. He is an attorney. I do not play one on the radio or on TV, so we go to the experts.